42 that Winston Churchill, the wartime Prime Minister in Britain, said those words that are heading this video cast today. This is not the end, he said, after a particular point had been reached in the war. This is not the end. This is not even the beginning of the end. But it is perhaps the end of the beginning. And you can apply that to the happenings of 2016, when we have seen a gathering, global stirring, awakening of people and their response to it, in the understanding that a few people control everyone else. They dictate the direction of the world. They dictate much of what happens in the world. They dictate who bombs who and what happens in the economic system, what happens in the political system. And with the vote to leave the European Union, Brexit, and the voting into the presidency of Donald Trump, we have seen a desire, to say the least, by vast numbers of people to challenge this control by the elite few of the enormous many. People are starting to realize that something like 7.4 billion people in the world are having their lives dictated and their choices dictated by a ludicrously few people. Brexit was a response against that so blatantly happening in relation to the European Union, where a handful of bureaucrats in Brussels is dictating to virtually the entire continent. And the support for Donald Trump was based, and I'll come to this, not on what he is, because he's not what he claimed to be. The point is the perception that Trump was anti-establishment, that he was outside the establishment, that he was going to come in and challenge this elite. That perception of the illusory, fake Donald Trump, it's that got him so much support. It was another expression of people being sick and tired of being dictated to by this elite few. And of course, it's been demonized under the term populism. Populism breaking out everywhere. We've even had Prince Charles going off on one about the dangers of populism. Well, this is the dictionary definition of populism. A political philosophy supporting the rights and power of the people in their struggle against the privileged elite. And yet, we are being told that if you support this populism, then you're some kind of racist or Nazi by definition, kind of indicated by Prince Charles. And of course, he'll be terrified of populism, because if we have a situation where this definition of populism goes on expanding, i.e. supporting the rights and power of the people in their struggle against the privileged elite, then one of the first things that has to go is the elite, ridiculous, rule by bloodline institution of royalty and the royal family, i.e. him. Oh, populism's dangerous. Yeah, who for, Charlie? Well, me. Yes, exactly. And we're having so-called progressives going off about populism. Oh, it's populism. Progressives should if they are what they claim to be, should be supporting that struggle of the mass of the people against the control by a privileged elite. Instead, those that call themselves progressives have become supporters of that elite, expressions of that elite, and demonizers of those who are challenging it. The progressives have become the new authority, the new big brother, the new censors. And this 2016 has been, as so many commentators are saying, an absolutely extraordinary period, a watershed in global politics, particularly in the West. We've had these supporters of this constantly centralization of global power called globalization, this more and more power of the few over the many. The supporters of this, like Hillary Clinton, gone. We have people like Matteo Renzi, kicked out after a referendum in Italy. We have Francois Hollande in France, gone. Not officially gone yet, but not standing, finished once his term's over. And we've had Angela Merkel, again, classic promoter and supporter of this elite agenda, now hanging on by her fingertips as a result of her open door policy for migrants in Germany, with the consequences that have come from that. So it's been, add Brexit to all this and other things that have happened in Europe in terms of support for so-called populist groupings. And it's been an extraordinary year in which the people have started to stir, to wake up to what's going on. And my God, so far, it's just a fraction of what's going on, but it's a start. And to say, we're not having it anymore. Now, what we need in 2017 is for that to kick on. And what I mean by that is to move beyond the idea that the political system, i.e. voting for Trump or voting for this or voting for that, is actually going to change anything. The political system worldwide is so stitched up in terms of who gets to power and multiple parties, usually two in any country, actually being masks on the same face, i.e. whichever one gets in, the same agenda kicks on. It's to wake up to that and to realize that voting for people to put them in political power, as the system works currently, is just basically moving the deck chairs on the Titanic. And this is the next stage we need to go to, where if we're going to change things, we don't hand that power of change to politicians, whoever they may be, but we do it ourselves. We come together. We put down the fault lines that are there just to divide and rule us, of race, of income bracket, of culture. And we realize we're all in this together, and we need to work together to bring this to an end. Otherwise, we'll be divided and ruled, and it will all go on. Now, the so-called progressives, I've had a big wake-up call. Unfortunately, they never took it, in terms of Barack Obama. He was the man, the political leader. He was going to come in and change everything. Never going to happen. Just another a puppet for the puppeteers in the shadows. And of course, the policies went on. They just followed on after Bush, and away you go. And they couldn't see it. And another big thing happened. As a result of investing all that hope into Obama and their people's reputations, oh, this guy's different, they've allowed him to go on basically following the same policies, not least in the Middle East, of Boy George Bush. But instead of the great resistance that Bush got from a large anti-war movement, none of it, basically, under Obama. Just had this free ride from people who should have been challenging him. And I'm starting to see the same things happening with Trump. Donald Trump is the big hope of so many people in America who, well, they don't think, they know that the system run by the elite has just abandoned them, doesn't care about them, just leaves them to somehow survive. And so Trump comes along, and what do political leaders do when they're trying to get elected? They'll tell you what you want to hear, what their natural constituency of support and potential constituency of support wants to hear. And then what do politicians do when they get in? They do as they bloody like, and we're always going to do before. And we're seeing this with Trump. Trump, the idea that Trump was going to drain the swamp. Ludicrous. And so many people in these so-called alternative media fell for it and still falling for it, because even though we look at Trump's picks for his government and we see that far from draining the swamp, he's just filling it, so many of those in the alternative media that supported Trump, which is not what the alternative media should be doing, it should be challenging the system, not supporting a puppet of it. Anyway, they are keeping strong or making excuses for him, just as the progressives made excuses for Obama when he went down another road to the one he said he would. So we now have Donald Trump handing over control of the American economy to Goldman Sachs in the form of Steve Mnuchin, long-time Goldman Sachs man. He's now Treasury Secretary. And the president of Goldman Sachs, Gary Cohn, is going to head the National Economic Council. So Trump, classically, as I've just said, was laying in to the elite during the election campaign, laying into Goldman Sachs, and then appoints their men to run his economic policy. Do you think that will be for the people? Do you think that will be populist? And then we've got Wilbur Ross, Commerce Secretary, another billionaire. The whole government's filled with billionaires. Wilbur Ross, 24 years working for the Rothschilds. We have a multi-millionaire Labour Secretary who opposes things like the minimum wage. So the idea that Donald Trump is anti-establishment, is not part of the system, as I said right through the election campaign, is absolutely ridiculous. And what was good about the rejection of Hillary Clinton and the support for Donald Trump was not because of what Donald Trump is. He's not. We're seeing it now. It's because of what people thought he was and what he represented. That is the indicator of where people are at in terms of their view of the world. And that's encouraging, that people are now starting to say, we're not having this anymore. Now, if he sticks to it, there might be some good things that Donald Trump will do. If he sticks to it, I mean, this is President Two Mouths. It says one thing, then says another, then does a third. But if he rejects the hoax of global warming, which is only there as a justification to transform human society, in the way I explain in detail in the books and the world tour, then that would be a good thing. And if he gets better relations with Russia, that will be a good thing, because if Clinton had got in, war with Russia would have been virtually a gimme. However, even on that, we've got to be very careful about assuming, because the elephant in Trump's probably vast living room is that Trump is Israel's man, right, wrong, and anything in between. This president is going to be the most pro-Israeli president that I can think of, certainly in modern times and recent times. Anything that Israel want, basically, Trump is going to give them. And one of the things that they want is the destruction of Iran. Some leaked emails sent by the former Secretary of State Colin Powell revealed that Israel has hundreds of nuclear missiles aimed at Iran. And of course, we have had this militarization by Trump of what should be civilian posts, i.e. Defense Secretary. This guy, this military man, they call Mad Dog Mattis. Someone with a personality that prompts the nickname Mad Dog. Yes, that's just who we want running the Pentagon. And of course, we've heard from Mattis over the years how much he enjoys killing people. It's fun. Yeah, just the man you want running the US military. And then we've got this guy, Flynn, Michael Flynn, as National Security Advisor, and another military man. And they have a common view, which is that they can't stand Iran, here we go, and they see it as the biggest danger. Well, at the moment, Iran and Russia and China are working as one alliance, not least in Syria. And if you go for Iran, then you're going to bring in China and you're going to bring in Russia, unless, and I'm sure this is the part of the plan, they can somehow, by pulling Russia into the fold, oh, we're bosom buddies now, they can break that alliance with China. So just because he's talking, Trump, about getting better relations with Russia does not mean that he's a man of peace. I mean, as I've said, China's been a target for a very long time, and he's not even in office before he's kicking off problems with China. And also mentioning Iran in very unfavorable terms. You can see where the whole thing's going. So this whole deal with Trump as Israel's man is fundamentally important to appreciate in terms of where this Trump presidency is going to go. I mean, God help the Palestinians now. He has appointed a extreme Zionist zealot as his ambassador to Israel, an extreme Zionist zealot as his international negotiator on many things, including the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and situation. And they're not going to make any decisions to the benefit in any way, shape, or form of the Palestinians. They will do what another extreme Zionist zealot, Benjamin Netanyahu, wants them to do. And Israel, i.e. the Rothschilds that created it, have an agenda for the world. And now they have the vehicle in the White House or Trump Tower or wherever he sticks himself to push that on. You'll note how much more belligerent Netanyahu and the Israeli regime have become since Trump won, because they know their man is in power, or soon to be so. And we have Trump saying that the American embassy is going to be moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That is extraordinarily provocative in terms of Arab countries and the Palestinians. And that he will recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Ditto. And so when you look at the Trump appointments, we have the American economy now taken over by Zionists from Goldman Sachs and Rothschild employees. And we have in the Pentagon and as National Security Advisor, two people who are vehemently opposed to Iran, which Israel want to target. And those that follow things closely will know that when the totally extreme Zionist-controlled organization called the Project for the New American Century published their list of countries in September 2000 that they wanted to regime change. And of course, the people that wrote that document then came to power with Boy Bush and started picking off those regimes in that list. Iraq, Libya, Syria, also on that list was Iran. So that is very likely to be a key word in the Trump administration, Iran, and all that comes from that. We need in 2017 to start to move our perceptions of everything, I would suggest, beyond the political system to that which is behind the political system, which dictates to whichever leaders in power, whatever colour rosette they may wear, whatever name they may call themselves, and realise that there is an agenda beyond politics, which the whole political system is just there to camouflage in so many ways, that works through politics, through banking, through the corporations, through big biotech, through big oil, through big pharmaceutical, all these things. And they're working out and playing to a global agenda, which I've been exposing all these years. And again, what was in my books 20 years ago is being read on the television news. Why? Because there is an agenda. And if you can access that, then you can quite comfortably predict it in theme and often in detail where the world's going to go. Because unless there is an intervention into that agenda to stop it unfolding, then it will unfold and you can predict the future. The whole point of what I do is to alert enough people that this is what's happening, so there is an intervention. And this is why I say 2016 could well be the end of the beginning. The beginning being the initial perception that, hold on a second, the world's not run by those we think it is. And the vast majority are having their lives dictated by a ridiculously few people. 2016 has also seen, say, a realignment, a re-evaluation of what is called the alternative media. Because for me, alternative media is about exposing what people wouldn't normally hear and normally see and know about, and exposing this system of hidden control that people would normally see. Why? Because they aren't supposed to see it. But we have had in 2016 a significant part of the alternative media supporting Donald Trump and actually becoming little more than a public relations promotion operation for Donald Trump, who not only won't drain the swamp, he's in it. And I think that's deeply sad. And when you reach the point of a few days ago, where I saw an article on some alternative sites written by apparently an alternative journalist that was listing all the disasters that have happened in America after decisions had been made that were perceived not to be good for Israel. The whole thrust being that God deals his wrath upon those that don't do what Israel wants. When you see that coming from an apparently alternative journalist and put out on some alternative sites, then you know that there is a re-evaluation necessary in the alternative media about what is alternative and what's just not even mainstream light, just mainstream. And it's this part of the alternative media that won't get pulled in to the game that they desperately, desperately want rid of. And that's where the whole fake news thing has come from. And what you're going to see in 2017 is more and more extreme efforts and extreme decisions and impositions to block the circulation of information challenging the mainstream narrative, be it the mainstream media or mainstream politics. Because what, if you like, the populism of 2016 has shown is the power of information when it's put before people. And this is why when you're involved in a perception deception, which is what all this is, you must control the information that people receive so their perception of everything is the perception you want it to be. And this alternative media, in all its forms, has circulated information, has circulated other ways of looking at the world, to the extent where it is impacting upon the world through the changing perceptions of people and how they see the way things operate. And it's sad to me that significant parts of the alternative media, not least in America for obvious reasons, have got caught in being lassoed back into the system by supporting a particular candidate on the basis of something he's not. So what the genuine alternative media needs is support from as many people as possible in the face of this gathering, and it will gather further, censorship. And beyond that, let's move to the next stage of this awakening to the world, which goes beyond politics and believing that's the way to change anything. It's there to make sure nothing for the better can be changed. And start to realize that we, 7.4 billion people, have the power. We have that power dissipated and diluted by being played off against each other down the fault lines of religion and race and income bracket, culture. And we have that unity fractured, that potential unity fractured by people getting pulled into the belief systems that the system wants us to believe in. Like politics can change anything. Vote for this party and it will be better than this party. Because we need to stand up together now and stop acquiescing to this edifice of tyranny, this global control system. Because if we leave it where we are now, then it won't really change anything. But if we kick it on and say, okay, not only are we voting for Brexit because we don't want bureaucrats to control our lives, not only are we voting for Trump under the illusory perception that he's anti-system, but we people are going to stop cooperating with the system that's controlling us, because it can only control us with our cooperation. That's why divide and rule is so important. Get us fighting among each other so we don't in unity say, we're not having this anymore. Because one clear fact of history is this: if we will take it, they will give it to us. Let 2017 move us on to the next stage, where we take control of our lives, not through some politician, but directly, by coming together and refusing to cooperate with that wishes to enslave us. Do that, and a year from now,